Today I thought I'd analyze why people love Star Wars Battlefront 2. Why? Because I really love this game and want to talk about it. But to answer that question, we need to answer other questions. First and most obvious, why people love video games. Second, why people love Star Wars, and thusly why we love movies, which then requires us to answer why people love the Star Wars story, and that will require us to figure out why people love stories in general. This seems like, admittedly, a lot, but taking this slow and methodically will make this much easier than you think. The questions are extremely subjective, so it makes it look a lot harder than it actually is. It's just choosing what you think is the right answer. Although that is enough babbling about why this will be easy, let's dive in. It seems only fitting to start with why people love stories in general, because that is the question everything else builds on. To figure this out, I decided to look into the earliest written stories that archaeologists have found evidence about. Because, by my logic, if we found out why we originally wrote stories, we'll find why we write stories today. Except that thousands of years writing has evolved, won't be obscuring and distorting what we're looking for. And throughout my research, from what I can tell, the earliest written story that isn't completely destroyed, or unable to be somewhat translated, would be the Epic of Gilgamesh, a story detailing the adventures of Anu, Enkidu, Aruru, Shamhat, and of course, Gilgamesh. Hopefully I said those names right. This tale definitely earns the title of epic, making up 12 different tablets having roughly 2,300 words on each, or approximately 27,600 words in total. Sure, in comparison to other stories today, that doesn't seem like a lot, but it was a lot more than I was expecting. I was expecting a small, direct story with obvious morals that would contribute heavily to surviving back in the day. But this is what I find instead. A 72-page epic involving romance, gods, and competition. Anyways, what we learn from this is that stories, since we began writing them down, as far as we know, have always involved several themes that are questioned and refined by the book using the certain universe it places the observer in. Other types of books, like kids' books and textbooks, would come later, but for this discussion don't really need to be brought up. The most important lesson we can learn from the Epic of Gilgamesh right now is that it shows stories, at their heart, are about themes and general ideas about life. Exploring, questioning, and refining them through the use of a different universe. With Star Wars, we see this exact idea play out. Even though the viewer is placed in a high adrenaline, super cool, action sci-fi universe, for the most part, the story we follow remains relatively grounded following characters. But even though that is the case, I think it's important we focus on the large battles. Yes, even in the prequels, and see what themes these different times in the movies convey. So, in that case, what do they convey? Throughout nearly every single battle scene in every single movie, the battles always have the good guys, the people you are supposed to relate with and learn from, losing, or in some way at a disadvantage, which they pull through and beat by summoning up the skill or courage to take on the foe. Usually while that is going on, we see the mortality of war and the sacrifices required to win. Meaning that, in terms of war throughout the Star Wars universe, it's pretty much unanimously about sacrifice, mortality, and the summoning of skill and courage. But now that we've answered what Star Wars battles explore in terms of themes, which we enjoy because the human mind is naturally curious, how would this apply to video games? Why would we make a video game about this? Well, why do we play video games in the first place? This question could be answered in multiple ways, but in terms of what I believe, video games are created to be the next step into immersing us into media. It's the same reason movies were created, because books are hard to get into and can be interpreted in multiple ways, whereas movies give a definitive version of how things look while still retaining the questions books propose. And viewing something is a more passive way of absorbing the material, making it a lot easier to get into. With video games, this is taken a step further. It still retains the passive visual material absorption, but it adds actually interacting with the universe to take the immersion of the experience to a whole new level. Controls can be a stickler to deal with. Once down, it can feel like you are in the same universe as the characters in a well-executed game. Much more so than any movie, with only the best-produced movies standing a chance. That's the reason you see stuff like motion controls and VR making it big. They're providing the next step of immersing us into an experience. However, that's not the point. The point is that video games provide an extra level of immersion, allowing us to feel like we are actually in the universe and able to explore the themes of the world in a much more personal manner. When you're the person being gunned down, it can feel pretty devastating, even if you have no attachment to the particular character you are controlling. That same kind of pit in your stomach can only be achieved by killing characters we spent a lot of time with and have come to know, or even have come to grow an attachment to. Then if you add in the fact you're controlling characters you become attached to, you can genuinely feel worried about a digital avatar that you're responsible for. Star Wars Battlefront 2, although apparently simple on the surface, actually executes on all of this. Through its gameplay, it provides the themes that Star Wars battles are always trying to explore. With so many lives in a basic match, lives almost become meaningless until you're down to the last few guys. Exploring the idea of the mortality of war and how demanding it becomes to the soldiers risking their lives. With so little health in your character, you're almost sure to die, which does connect to the last point, but also brings up the point that you need to die sometimes to keep others safe to win a battle. Bringing up how sacrifice is sometimes a necessary part of war, and not every, if any battle can be won simple and clean. And the skill and courage comes from the player themselves, requiring the skill to win the battle, and the courage to kill off your character for others' well-being. It just goes to show that no awesome experience is just simply awesome. Something as seemingly basic as Battlefront 2, where you pull the trigger and lasers fire, can have a lot of depth in other areas to make it great. What do you guys think? I'm actually curious. Do you think everything I said is complete malarkey? Do you have another, possibly better theory? Or do you just have something to add? Please leave your thoughts in the comment section. And I mean, if you want, you could try to cross-map snipe the subscribe and like button, but that's just food for thought. But that's all I got. Have a wonderful rest of your day.